hour. Our opening hymn this morning is number 18, What Wondrous Love, from the Gray Hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with your masks on. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing number 18, What Wondrous Love. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for all of our virtual attendees. I'm Grace Preuss, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from include Alec Peck, who is our music coordinator. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. Welcome to this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. This Universalist Unitarian congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another. So we thank you for joining us today. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we are in the sanctuary, please keep your masks on while you are singing. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all of this information, and it is also available on our website. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who participated in our fall yard sale that was heroically coordinated by Kate and Linda, our members of the UUCR, and was held this week and ended yesterday afternoon. Thank you again to all of you who participated and assisted with all your hard work in making this event happen. Newsletter. The monthly UUCR newsletter comes out the first of every month by email and per request by postal mail. Every other month, okay. So it comes out the first of every other month by email and per request by postal mail. If you have something newsworthy or something that you'd like to contribute, please email it to uuchurchofriverside.calendar@gmail.com or call the church office at 951-686-6515. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, please contact the church office. Our first Sunday luncheon will be served today after the service. The theme is sandwiches. Contributions are appreciated and will be donated to the church fund. Please join us today for the semi-annual congregational meeting today in the sanctuary at noon. The CUUR, which is the Concerned UUs of Riverside meeting, has been canceled this month due to the congregational meeting. New member welcome. The new member welcome will be held on November 13th, where we will welcome those who have recently joined our membership joined our membership between 2018 and the present. So we invite all our new members to attend next week on November 13th. Festival of Lights. The 2022 Mission Inn Festival of Lights will be held from November 25th to December 31st. Downtown light displays will be illuminated from 5 to 10 p.m. UUCR will be open to the public during the festivities. Donations are welcome of snacks, bottled water, and individual packages of hot chocolate. Please see Robert or Avery for details. That completes our announcements. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today, we are happy to welcome our guest speaker, Reverend Michelle Freeman. Reverend Michelle E. Freeman was born in Austin, Texas, during the heart of the civil rights movement. She lived in Austin until April 1999. She and her beloved wife of 26 and a half years, Reverend Georgia Chambers, packed up their belongings and moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which started the embarkation of a wild journey which has taken them across the United States. Reverend Michelle and Reverend Georgia are both May 2012 graduates of Eden Theological Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri, with Master of Divinity degrees. They are both ordained ministers in the United Church of Christ. Reverend Georgia is a board-certified senior hospital trauma chaplain at Ascension St. Vincent Medical Center in Evansville, Indiana. Reverend Michelle is currently a Doctor of Ministry student at Phillips Theological Seminary in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where she is working on creating a blueprint for persons who seek to do cross-cultural ministry in the future. Reverends Michelle and Georgia co-parent two very spoiled 5-year-old Chihuahua siblings, Marguerite and Manolo, who are loved by both, currently living in Evansville. Reverend Michelle just ended her ministry with First Congregational Church of Riverside and is moving to Evansville for a 3-month sabbatical. Get rid of the dead weight. Reverend Michelle Freeman will preach about Mark chapter 9, verses 38 through 50. Jesus gives warnings using harsh words in the gospel lesson from Mark. Jesus does not mean the words literally, but metaphorically. The harsh language is meant to get our attention. The message is the same. What you do for the least of these, you do to me. What stumbling blocks do you have which need to be removed from your life? What dead weight do you possess in your life that you need to toss like smelly garbage? We have two lightings of sacred flames. The first is the occupied Indigenous peoples' remembrance candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first a sacred space of several groups of Indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Cupeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting, our chalice lighting, is taken from the Passover Haggadah. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not harm, to help and not hinder, to bless and not curse, to serve the spirit of freedom. Thank you, Bill. Greeting our guests. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the mic and speak into it directly and clearly so everyone can hear. Please be aware that you'll be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. So, do we have any church volunteers or members who would like to come up and speak to us this morning? Dinah? Are you? Please step forward to the mic and tell us your name, how long you have been here, and how you found out about our church.
Good morning. I'm Dinah Rowe. My husband, who also started to join me, had been members here since 2004. Prior to that, we were members in the Long Beach church until we discovered that when we moved here, we discovered that this church was here. So we've been members here ever since.
Thank you, Dinah. And that's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. We have some new visitors here. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm really loud, so I don't think a mic is I'm too loud for a mic. Hi, my name's Carlotta, and I've been walking by this church. It's always closed when I walk by, and I like the message. And I'm new to Riverside. I've been in Corona for 25 years. I'm a Boston transplant, and I'm a teacher, soon to be retired teacher. So I like the message the church offers. I've never really been to a Unitarian, so, but I really like the message. It's kind of what I'm all about. So,
okay, thank you. Welcome. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to come up and introduce yourselves? Okay. If there's someone online who'd like to introduce themselves, please raise your hand and we will call you by Zoom. Okay, thank you for that. For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you are here, and leave your contact information if you'd like to know about any upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@churchofriverside.org. Our next hymn is Blue Boat Home, number 1064, from the Teal hymnal, I believe. It is said that shared joy is a double joy, and shared sorrow is half sorrow. On the first Sunday of each month, we share the joys and concerns that we have received from you and which you have collected throughout the month. First, I will read the joys and concerns that were given to us. Okay, so now I'd like to invite anyone who would like to speak to a joy or concern recently in their lives or that has been on their mind. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to share a joy or a concern? Alec?
Thank you. I'm Alec, and I haven't decided yet if this is a joy or a concern, but for the first time, I was summoned for jury duty starting this week. Yeah, how exciting. But so far, it's been delayed. And so maybe, and I haven't been selected yet necessarily. And while it will be quite unfortunate perhaps to lose quite a bit of my time, I do think it's exciting to be part of that process and part of the process of justice, since that's something that I do believe is important. And so it'll be exciting nonetheless. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec.
Please make sure that you do vote. It is democracy. It's essential that we all vote. Regardless of your views, voting is important. Please do so. Thank you.
Thank you all. Do we have any other joys or concerns that we'd like to share? Dan? I think we're okay.
Oh, hi, hello. My concern is this church. I find it such an amazing place to come on Sundays, and it makes me sad that I see so few here when there used to be so many. So many people do carry the message in their heart that you guys relay here on Sundays. But I just wish more would carry this with them throughout the week, and they would be here to be inspired or listen to this, because this is the way we will survive, by caring about each other and remembering that every other day of the week as well. And coming here, at least for me, is a battery charge. It disturbed me yesterday, and I wasn't here for that long, to see the hard work people invested to try to encourage those out here in the universe to find the gifts being given here at this church. I don't know. I guess my biggest concern is, please find this little spot in Riverside. Please find it in your heart to carry the messages that come from this wonderful group of people, small as it may be compared to the universe beyond. It can make a difference if one realizes it's here and participates in the message every day. That's it. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else? Okay. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to a joy or concern? Okay. Then could we have someone come up and place a stone in the chalice? So we place a stone in our water chalice to represent the joys and concerns we have shared with our church community, and in recognition of those we hold close and have not shared. May we remember those who have spoken, those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. Thank you, Alec. This portion of our service is to support our beloved and historical church. This can be done in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. You will get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe, Dinah in the back, Dinah Rowe, to purchase the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Thank you. Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but with your masks on. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive. Our meditation today is taken from Psalms 19, 7 through 14, from the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition of the Bible. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The decrees of the Lord are sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. In keeping them, there is great reward. But who can detect one's own errors? Clear me from hidden faults. Keep back your servant also from the insolent. Do not let them have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Now let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. Good. 2 chimes today. Now, I would like to introduce Reverend Michelle Freeman, who will be speaking to us on the topic, Get Rid of the Dead Weight. Reverend Michelle.
Good morning. I'm asking for y'all to bear with me. I woke up a couple of days ago with somewhat of a not so nice cold and it morphed into an asthma attack, which is even worse. But God is with me this morning. And Let the presence of God be with us at this time. I want to read you a second passage from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 9, verses 38 through 50. Recognize your allies. John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone throwing demons out in your name, and we tried to stop him because he wasn't following us." Jesus replied, "Don't stop him. No one who does powerful acts in my name can quickly turn around and curse me. Whoever isn't against us is for us. I assure you that whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you belong to Christ will certainly be rewarded. As for whoever causes these little ones who believe in me to trip and fall into sin, it would be better for them to have a huge stone hung around their necks and to be thrown into the lake. If your hand causes you to fall into sin, chop it off. It's better for you to enter into life crippled than to go away with two hands into the fire of hell, which can't be put out. If your foot causes you to fall into sin, chop it off. It's better for you to enter life lame than to be thrown into hell with 2 feet. If your eye causes you to fall into sin, tear it out. It's better for you to enter God's kingdom with one eye than to be thrown into hell with 2. That's a place where worms don't die and the fire never goes out. Everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good. But if salt loses its saltiness, how will it become salty again? Maintain salt among yourselves and keep peace with each other. Here ends the reading from Mark 9, 38 through 50. My title for today is Get Rid of the Dead Weight. Get rid of the dead weight. Would you please pray with me? Creator God, I thank you for this moment in time as I deliver your word to your people. May something I offer be a source of comfort, hope, and strength in these trying days we are currently living in. And may my words and the sound of my voice allow the good news to flow forth from my mouth, giving all praises and honor to you, my Creator. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, in the gospel passage from Mark that we just heard, Jesus is trying to teach his, I like to affectionately call them the disciples, about how to be good disciples. In Mark 9, verses 32 through 34, the disciples once again misunderstand Jesus' messiahship. So he now has to teach them once again. Something that I learned from my wife, who taught special ed in middle school for almost 15 years and worked with behavioral management in middle school kids from 6th to 8th grade is repeat and review. Repeat and review. Well, poor Jesus was always having to do repeat and review with the disciples. We see in verse 38, John is telling Jesus that someone is acting as an exorcist in Jesus' name. But he was not one of us, and we tried to stop him. The disciples seem to want to act like bouncers. Jesus tells the disciples that you don't have to worry about this person, for they will be rewarded. Rather, you need to worry about your own actions. Carelessness in discipleship can do irreparable damage to those most vulnerable in the body of Christ. Now, how often do you have a problem and something goes wrong, and you're set to blame someone else for what has happened, and you get angry? And rather than assessing the situation and finding a solution, you get angry. Rather than assessing the situation and finding a solution, channeling your anger in resolving the problem, rather than exasperating and making it worse. You know, often we are ready to blame others for our own wrongdoings. But is this the way Jesus would have us to do? I think not. Jesus wants us to look at our own lives and to pray and to find a solution to our own problems and to see the light. Now, the Greek word scandalon is used in verse 42 through 47. A scandalon is an obstacle that people trip over and is usually translated stumbling block. Due to the decidedly moralistic tone the word scandal has taken in modern times. We often put stumbling blocks to block our joy, and we block our blessings, which always come from the Creator. Now, there are some very graphic verses in the text today. I think the words used in the gospel are extreme because Jesus is really trying to get our attention. Verses 43, 45, and 47 each point to stumbling blocks that are a part of us: our hands, our feet, and our eyes. Things we hold dear, things we think we need. Through images of body parts, Jesus makes clear that stumbling blocks are not other people or things outside of us. They are a part of us. These stumbling blocks, they might be events, practices, the way we've always done it, or our own pet causes. Stumbling blocks are so dangerous that they should be severed. Cut it off, as Jesus says in verse 45. And he goes on to say, it is better for you to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. We are likely to think there is nothing worse than losing a hand, a foot, or an eye. But Jesus said there is. The consequences of causing another to stumble are far worse than our own self-maiming. This gospel lesson of Mark invites us as a community to examine the stumbling blocks that we place, often unknowingly, often in faithful enthusiasm, in front of the very most vulnerable among us. Now ask yourself, am I getting in the way of the gospel, which is living in the way of Jesus, by doubting everything that happens along the way? Jesus is trying to tell us to get rid of the dead weight. So what dead weight am I talking about? For those of you, myself included, fighting the battle of the bulge, is it not time for us to stop procrastinating and put a solid effort into losing the weight, which is holding us back from living our lives to the very fullest? Is it not time for us to get rid of the dead weight? I submit, the very dead weight, which can cause our death. Many persons have lost substantial amounts of weight by just adopting a healthier way of living, including eating a healthy diet, exercising, and I might add, work on our mental status, which leads to my second suggestion for getting rid of the dead weight. Now, as we know, the human mind can be a powerful enemy, and it is often a stumbling block to our success. And it gets us in trouble, and it keeps us from living our lives to the very fullest. Now, a well-known pastor in my denomination, the United Church of Christ, he was preaching one day, and he said something that I will never forget. And this, by the way, was over 25 years ago. He said, we can talk ourselves out of just about anything by constantly discussing, cussing, and rediscussing ideas instead of just doing it. Instead of talking about a problem or a situation ad nauseum, isn't it time for us to just do it? Which means make up our minds and move forth and stop finding ways to talk ourselves out of wonderful possibilities, and more importantly, blocking our blessings. Get rid of the dead weight. Indeed, great damage is done to the gospel when Christians are preoccupied with infighting and self-righteous proclamations about others. And you know what? The last time I checked, we all read from the same book, albeit different translations of the Bible. None of us is more sanctified than the other. None of us is better than the other. And yet, day after day, people continue to prop themselves up and puff themselves up by believing they know it all. And those other Christians, those other people don't have a clue as to what is right or wrong. I submit to you that Jesus said, I don't think so. As he told the disciples, none of you is better than the person who is casting out demons in my name. Instead of worrying about what they are doing, as Michael Jackson said in his famous song, we need to look at the person in the mirror. Because you know what? At the end of the day, the buck stops with you and me. Jesus commands us to be in beloved community with each other and to care and love for each other and creation. However, we let places and things hold us back from being all we were created to be. It is time to get rid of the very dead weight. How many of you are holding on to relationships which are just plain dead? There's no goodwill left in the relationship. Hate, envy, anger, resentment have taken the place of love, security, trust, and respect. Is it not time to get rid of the dead weight, that stumbling block, that person who is holding you back while you are holding them back from their fullest potential? How many of you are in dead-end jobs, which are going nowhere? Yes, it's hard to leave a job in this difficult economy we are living in, but I believe the pandemic has forced us all to re-examine who we are economically and employment-wise. We've been forced to isolate to stay safe, and the pandemic has created the perfect storm. Jesus is imploring us to create new opportunities for ourselves. Successful people surround themselves with successful persons. In other words, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with people who can help create new possibilities for you, which could ultimately lead to a new stream of income. And you know what? Before you know it, you've found a new career, new friends, new opportunities, new possibilities, and you have no reason to remain in a dead-end job, stealing your joy, blocking your blessing, and creating ill and emotional and physical ill health for you. So are you going to continue in life carrying around dead and unnecessary baggage, like the Samsonite luggage we carry with us on our trips and our vacations? Are you going to cart around like large luggage those people who are holding you back? Are you going to continue to frequent places and events that are doing you no justice, no good, and are of no purpose or service in your life? Are you going to get rid of the dead weight? Will you fight the good fight by battling the diseases in your life, holding you down and keeping you unhealthy? Are you going to declare war on those thoughts of self-doubt, self-envy, and pity that seek to only block you from being the best you were created to be? Are you going to hold on to a marriage, a friendship, or a partnership, or other close relationship that you know in your heart it's way past its expiration date? Will you sit down with those persons in your life who either are holding you down or they are holding you down, and come to a mutual agreement to stop the pain, stop the hurt, and end the relationship which has become too toxic to bear? Will you choose to surround yourself with emotionally and physically healthy people who are poised and positioned to help you achieve higher ground and take your professional life to the next level? Will you choose to surround yourself with persons who provide enrichment and empowerment to you on all that you do in your life? God can truly reveal to us our best selves when we get rid of the dead weight. We can reveal to the universe just how much we love ourselves by getting rid of stumbling blocks, dead weight that is holding us back. Your soul, your spirit, your life, and the universe depends on you living your best life and being your best self. Get rid of the dead weight. May it be so. Namaste.
Our closing hymn is number 101, Abide With Me, from the Gray Hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but with your masks on. Please stand and embody your spirit and join us in singing number 101, Abide With Me.
Abide with me, fast falls the evening tide. The darkness deepens, still with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, so abide with me. Swift to its close ebbs out life's little day. As joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. Oh, the who changes not, abide with me. I fear no foe with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where brave thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me.
Now, for a blessing to take you out into the week. Know that you each embody a part of the universe, a part of this loving faith community. Take that out into the community with full life and abandon. Know that you are the church. You, the people, embody everything about the church. Go in peace, my siblings. Namaste. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes of questions or to share some discussion or observations from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Please be aware that these comments will also be posted online. For the rest of you, you are now welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Reverend Michelle, can we have you come back up? Okay. Or you can stay here. Come on.
I had a comment. I don't know if I have a specific question, but I'm happy to hear your response. First of all, thank you very much for speaking for us today. And so I did resonate very much with some of the things that you said, but I was thinking, of course, in this church we don't all read from the same book, and I don't know if what form God might take, or what form the afterlife might look like. I don't know. Personally, it would be arrogant for me to say, I think, but I do, and although the literal meaning of universalism has been somewhat lost to history, I do think that if capital G God is watching over us, I do think that I do believe in universalism in the literal sense of that we're all saved and that we're all going to heaven. And so while I don't so much, it's hard for me to conceptualize what it means to maim yourself to avoid an eternal hell. I do know what it feels like to have to go through a painful process of giving up part of oneself for the purpose of my own spiritual growth. In fact, the image up there resonated with me because last week I wanted to push myself a little bit harder lifting my weights, and I really wanted to work out my left arm as much as my right arm, which is just not possible because my left arm is weaker. And I could tell that my left arm did not want to do another pull of my dumbbell, but I just forced it to do one extra rep more than I should have. And for the next several days, my left arm felt completely terrible. I couldn't even extend it. And I had done the exact same thing with my right and my left arm, but my right arm was fine. And the left arm hurt pretty badly. And ultimately, that was because of my pride. It was because I wasn't willing to let go of saying, my left arm is just weaker. I just can't lift my arm one more time. And if I had been willing to make that sacrifice and let go of my pride, then perhaps in the long run, I would not have been injured for the last week in my arm, in addition to feeling a bit sick like you. I think I also caught the same cold that you did. But thank you very much for speaking.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I originally preached this several years ago and a different audience, and I should have tweaked that line about reading the same book. I was speaking biblically, albeit different translations, but there's a saying that if you step into a church, hear a sermon, regardless of what faith tradition it is, if the sermon doesn't resonate with you, or if you hated it, it just means it wasn't for you. It might have been for someone else around you that needed to hear it. So one thing I learned in seminary is that if I preach to an audience of 50 people, I've preached 50 sermons, literally. Everyone hears differently. I grew up missionary Baptist in the Deep South during the Civil Rights Movement. So my context is so different than often where I have ended up at. So the voices that you hear from me are very varied. But I developed an affinity for the Unitarian tradition while in seminary in St. Louis. My wife and I used to often visit there, and I enjoyed it. It was a different perspective, and I even thought about changing denominations at one point. I decided against it, but I think that there's food and word for everybody that can go across multiple faiths. I know many people that I went to seminary with would never do what I did this morning, wouldn't be willing to do it because they wouldn't entertain anything a Unitarian had to say. And I beg to differ. We all have food for each other. Say that again?
Jesus and I can both forgive you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions? Yes.
I want to say that. Hopefully, I'll be brief. I just wanted to point out, well, for one thing, Michael Jackson's song "Man in the Mirror" was one of the most wonderful songs, poignant and very thoughtful. But my main concern was the idea of the dead weight of suddenly cutting something off, making a quick judgment and doing something decisive. And I do want to say, I do have a personal experience, which would be a bit shocking, of when I procrastinated and was wise for procrastinating. But instead, I'll tell a more humorous situation. My ex-wife, after 5.5 years, saw that in 6 years, there'd be no penalty for leaving too early, monetarily wise. So she went into the bedroom that had a lock on the door after telling me that we were through, and locked the door. I heard that click, and though I'm not a violent person, I've never been in a fight, I felt sudden, quite remarkable anger when usually I am a very reasonable person. And it occurred to me that I could go and kick that door in very easily and just simply to say to her, "You picked the house, I bought it for cash. Why can't you be happy?" But she was not. Luckily, I thought to myself, I'm a wiser person than to do something like that. And perhaps I should draw back and consider that I did pick her. She is a wonderful person. I found her in this church. And I thought, no, I should think upon this, and I should just think that maybe there's more to this, something bigger here, not so much about me, and I certainly shouldn't do something violent. It's just not me. And so I think that was a wise choice. So I do want to urge anyone, including those online, that when it comes to doing something potentially violent or hurtful, decisively cutting off the dead weight, you should procrastinate. you should sit back and you should think. When you make changes in your life, I believe you should give some thought, and then to rather slowly, but when you do start to make changes, rather slowly, but make sure that you continue doing them in the same pathway. For example, my ex-wife, after many years, several years of being gone, she is now a school psychologist in LA Unified, as she told me, making much more money than I ever made. Yet about a year ago, she did call me up and told me I was the only rich person she knows and that I should give her $10,000 because her tax man told her that it would be wise if she were to purchase a condo and begin building assets. And I merely said to her, as a psychologist, you tell me, why logically would I do such a thing? Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to participate? Anyone online? No. All right. Oh, Alec.
No one else. First, I want to encourage people to come up multiple times if they think of other comments. So I'll demonstrate. And I really liked one of the things that you said, Walt, about it's a really interesting idea that what if you are too hasty and you cut your foot off before you realize what you've done? But it's really hard to find that balance. At what point do you have to say, no, this is my foot has definitely got an infection and I definitely have to cut it off. I have to go past that point where I can't go back. That's a really scary line to cross, and that in itself can be a very painful process.
Thank you, Alec. Anyone else? No. Oh, Carlotta? Was it Carlotta? You had a comment?
I just want to thank you for a lot of things you said, but I'm short. Especially when you said 50 sermons, because taught for 30 years, and I've taught from 3 to 20, and especially high school teaching the past 17, and now I'm subbing, and I back with 5th graders and 6th graders and the middle schoolers and the challenges every day. But I couldn't ask for more blessings because I feel like I get to work with angels every day. And I didn't even realize till I was not teaching what the real world was like. I guess I had been secluded. But I just wanted to say, I like the imagery of what you shared, and also the message of what you shared. And many times when the Michael Jackson song comes on, we'd sing it in the hallways together. We'd sing Annie Lennox or Michael Jackson, and the kids would all know the words. And these are kids that are TikTokers and Snapchatters, and they got a whole nother world that we do. And they still have a bond. And I think that's really a blessing. So thank you for what you shared.
Thank you. Oh, I think we have one more. Buddy?
Reverend Michelle, thanks a lot. I really needed that. And my thought was, oh, why didn't I bring a busload of people here to hear that? And then I realized, well, Bud, why don't you take that to the busloads of people you deal with? And I think that's going to be my approach. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I think Buddy's comment ties into what Diane was saying as well. Take it out.
There are no such thing as accidents, and grace has not been coincidence. This message was said today. Because each time there's a difference in our own way, and like you said, take it out, bring more in. But this was beautiful for me because I also got a relationship tomorrow on faith. My feeling right now that I received. Thank you. You're welcome. And
was fearful of coming. Adam is a friend who I love dearly, who probably doesn't know how much I love him. And he asked me with an earnest heart, would you please come and speak to the UUs before you leave the area? And my first thought was, heck no. They don't understand me. They're not, I don't have a message for the UUs, but in our conversations with each other, I remember that the language is universal, that we all share, and my number one thing is justice and love, and unconditional, radically inclusive love for each other. That is the hallmark of who I am, and I'm like, that should go over well even with UUs. And you know, the joke in seminary we hear is that UCC people are Unitarians considering Christ. That's the joke. And then the UUs are just united in their causes. And I'm of the belief, and that's kind of where I meant to say the same book. We all read from the same book of a universal love and care for each other, for the planet. And in this contentious time that we're living in right now, I think we need to focus a little bit more on ourselves, taking care of ourselves so that the toxicity that has seeped into our nation, in our economics and in our politics, doesn't seep into our lives like a bad infection. So thank you, my humblest thanks for welcoming me this morning, and thank you, Adam, for asking me. Deep love.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle, and we all wish you well as you go further on in your travels, and we do hope that you come and visit us again soon. Okay, thank you.
And if y'all know someone that's willing to travel cross country with me and help me drive to Indiana, let me know. All expenses paid, and you get a flight for free back to this area, to your home. I need a driver to help me with my drive. So that's something I'm seeking. So I'm throwing it out there if you know someone.
Okay.
I'm pretty flexible with this week. Do you like dogs? I love dogs.
She has two.
I love dogs. I spoil them rotten. Yeah, we may need to talk.
Okay, so if there are no other comments, we can now move into the parish hall for further fellowship. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.